Okay, guys, I also want to talk about Pereira's knockout. A fantastic knockout. It won't make the list, not for top five, okay, not for top four, but it was a phenomenal KO. One of the best of all time as well. He landed that KO. Look closely how he landed that KO. He hit Jamal Hill when he threw that hook, and we call that a Mexican hook. Okay, like a hook is like this, an uppercut is like this. A Mexican hook, when you hook to the face, it's a diagonal. Okay, it's a 45-degree. I love that hook. It's a fantastic hook. It's sneaky. It has a little bit longer reach than the traditional hook, and it has more. It has obviously a different angle than uppercut, because when you throw the uppercut, if the guy leans back, you miss completely. When you throw the Mexican hook, if the guy leans back, it's still following through. Okay, so the Mexican hook, we call it Mexican hook because Mexicans were popularizing it back in the day. He hits him with a Mexican hook, and he lands. Watch that fight. He lands with the pinky. Everybody says you got to punch with these two knuckles, but this KO landed with the pinky. And let me tell you something. Jack Dempsey, he wrote a book about punching. I read it many years ago. It's a great book. It's a phenomenal book. And he says, in the beginning of the book, he's like, look, I want you to make a fist and look down on your pinky. That's what he says. He says, listen, guys, Jack Dempsey, for those of you who don't know, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. He fought when footage was black and white. He was smaller, beating heavier guys. He would literally beat guys 50, 60 pounds heavier than him. He's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. If you're a boxing connoisseur, you know the name Jack Dempsey. One of the original heavyweight champions. He writes a book about, he calls it the false step. He has a great, crazy philosophy. He's a very intelligent guy. Very, very intelligent guy. And in the book, he's like, hey, look, I want you to make a fist. I want you to look at your pinky right now, and I want you to see that's the most powerful part of your body. He says, when you punch somebody in the face, you got to land with your pinky. Now, you think, why would you want to land with your pinky? Isn't it the more fragile? And he says, no. He says, look at your forearm. When you look at your forearm, he says, look at these two knuckles. Sorry, these two knuckles here. The one everybody's taught to punch with. There's nothing supporting them down here. See that? There's nothing supporting them. So when I punch with these two knuckles, they're going to bend. My fist is going to flex like this. See? And he says, when your fist is going to flex like this, power is going to bleed. He says, look at the pinky knuckle. If you go down the pinky knuckle, you have a straight bone here. There's a bone here. See this forearm here? The force vector is going to go down your pinky and trace all the way down your forearm. So he says, when I hit with my pinky, there's no give here. Force doesn't bleed. If I hit with my index and the middle finger here, there's going to be a bleeding. Okay, so you're not going to notice it because it's happening so fast, but there's going to be a bleeding. Why? Because look, there's no bone supporting this area. Okay, now if you hit in the middle, now it's kind of like you're hitting, like you're teeter-tottering left and right. If you hit with the pinky, that bone is pushing back into the target. It's pushing back in. Look, I've seen, when people land KOs, I always try to, one of the things I look at is what part of the fist made contact. And believe you me, 99% of KOs, I can tell you, most fighters are trained to hit with these two knuckles, and we all see it all the time. These two knuckles land KOs. I won't say it's not good. It's very, very good. But there's something to be said about the pinky. Now, I got to go back and rewatch all of Pereira's fights to see all those KOs. Is he always hitting with the pinky? And I didn't notice it earlier because I watched it just not long ago, just a few minutes ago. I rewatched it again. You got to watch the little details sometimes. And I noticed, wait a second. Not only did his fist barely touch Jamal Hill, barely touched him. It didn't even hit the chin. It hit like the cheekbone. Okay, like live on Fight Night, it was fast, but on the replay, we could all see kind of hit the cheekbone, and the cheekbone's not the best place to KO somebody. It's really not. You don't see that many KOs when guys get hit in the cheekbone. Sometimes you see them get wobbled. You'll see their eye puff up. It'll close their eyes, sure. But knock them out flat like that, very rare. But, okay, usually we see KOs at the jaw, the chin, of course, the temple, just behind the ear. Those are the worst target. Like, the guys get flattened. The cheekbone, very rare. Not only did he hit him in the cheekbone, but the fist almost like didn't touch Jamal's. Like, guys, it was a real punch. I'm not trying to say Jamal took a dive or anything like that. Not at all. All I'm trying to say is, I think Jack Dempsey's correct. Like he's right. He makes a big deal out of his book. I forget what it's called actually, but he just look up Jack Dempsey boxing. You'll download it for free. It's all over the internet. And it's a fascinating book. In the beginning of he talks about how you should fall when you throw a punch. You're falling. It's like, anyways, it's a great book. He talks about like, anyways, I don't want to say this, but like he talks about what if I drop a baby off a third story building, and he's like, look, the body weight of even a baby can hurt you. He's obviously not throwing. He's just doing a thought experiment, right? He's not trying to say throw babies out of windows. No, not of course not. He's trying to tell you, look, body weight falling, and you're punching, your body weight has to fall, and he has these great philosophies. The guy was a phenomenal boxer. So if you guys are interested, check out Jack Dempsey's book. He barely touched Jamal Hill, but I think because he landed with the pinky and it was a Mexican hook, there was a diagonal here. He's transferring more force than most people throw with a hook. He's got the great look. Here's another great question: is Alex Pereira the greatest kickboxer of all time? Like, I gotta sit down and think about it, because I think the answer could be yes. Like, he could be arguably the greatest kickboxer of all time. He won glory in 2 divisions. He came in and he won in UFC in 2 different divisions. He's not just winning, he's annihilating people. He beat Adesanya, people were saying he's the greatest middleweight of all time. And then this guy comes in and cleans his clock. Yes, he lost the last one, but he beat him twice. And he beat him 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4 meetings. Alex Pereira is arguably the greatest kickboxer of all time.